Okay. In a true Balkan way, we are waiting everybody to come from their respective smoke breaks and to kindly get situated and listen to our upcoming panel. Well, now I'm a bit nervous, I have to say, so bear with me, because I have such an exceptional panelists who are here with us. But let's not waste any more time, because we have an important question before us dealing with the future of jobs. In my humble opinion, the future of everything. A region is still dealing with high unemployment and brain drain rates. On the other hand, we have an economy where too many people are working informally or not at all. Now, our speakers, I could honestly spend an entire panel just speaking about the people I'm about to invite, and it still wouldn't be enough. So maybe I'll just say my own personal reflections on what they do and the importance they bring to the table. Let's start with Eldar Banjica. He's the CEO of Manpower Southeast Europe. He knows the labor market in and out. He knows what the job seekers want. He knows what, yes, please. He knows what the job seekers want, and he knows how to bridge the gap with the real working force. Thank you. Next up, Professor Golden, professor at the Oxford University, whose biography reads like a global map. He was an economic advisor to Nelson Mandela. He has written 25 books, but he does not write for the academia, he writes for people to think. And trust me, after you listen to him, and many of you did this morning, he will make you think. Thank you. Now our dear friend to the summit, Jim Coleman. He is the head of economics in WSP. He advises governments on how to drive growth under pressure. He brings a rare perspectives as to how to grow under pressure, and he's really good at it. So I want to hear him speak very much. Next up, Robert Choban. He's one of the leading voices in media across the region, but even beyond that, he understands people. So I'm so glad to have him with us. He's the CEO of Color Press Group and so much more. And last but not least, my Dejana Pavlovic. She's a senior research associate from the Institute of Economic Science in Belgrade. She has been studying youth employment in and out. She's dealing with a topic near and dear to my heart, the topic of youth employment. Today with us, we are hosting our next-gen group of young leaders. And I hope this summit offers them more reasons to stay than to leave. And we'll talk with Dejana about it. Thank you. Okay, Dejana, maybe let's begin with you. You actually spent years studying the topics of youth employment. You're dealing with Serbia. However, pretty much within the entire region, we have a copy-paste situation. Can you tell us a bit more about what young people are feeling, thinking, what they are doing, and what is the key barriers they face, not just in getting work, but seeing a future within the region?
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? First, thank you for having me here, especially in this company. As you mentioned, my research mostly focuses on youth employability, their needs, and the skills they possess. And before I start to speak about young people on the Serbian labor market, I would like just to give you some insights into the fact that Serbian labor market has seen some improvements in the last decade, especially in unemployment rate. For example, unemployment rate among young people has dropped from 49% to 23% in the last 10 years. And, but this is not to say that all of these young people have become employed. Rather, we need to consider other indicators of the labor market, such as their activity rate, also their employment rate. as well as the decline in population growth, because the decline in unemployment, it could be the result of the negative population growth in the country, because the number of young people is decreasing or they are leaving the country, while the number of unemployed young people is decreasing. Also, I mentioned activity rate. Activity rate in the last decade is always approximately 31–32%, which means that in Serbia we are facing a high number of inactive young people who are outside of the labor force. And in my opinion, most alarming is the number of youth who are not in education, not in employment, and not in any kind of training. That is a NEET population. Maybe for somebody new term, it's actually a fancier way to say for youth who are just sitting around and doing nothing. According to the latest data, I always about data, according to the latest data, NEET rate for the population aged between 50 to 29 is approximately 50% in Serbia, while this number in some European countries is less than 8%. The reasons for this could be different. A key factor for their high unemployment rate, it could be their lack of the skills. And one way probably to increase their employability and job opportunities for them is to involve them in non-formal educational programs such as training, courses, internships to gain skills necessary on the labor market. And this especially works for unemployed young people, long-term unemployed and females. But according to our latest studies, highly educated youth are also interested in applying for courses to gain some advanced IT skill. When we ask them what is the reason for that, they said that formal education cannot provide them knowledge required for these jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let's flip the script with Eldar Banjica. You work directly with employers across the region. Are companies truly ready to hire young people, or are they still waiting for 5-year experience right after the college?
You know, I was told once the answer, it depends, is always a good answer. So I'll say it depends. but it truly does. It depends on the skill they're after. If there is a lack of the skill, of a particular skill, employers will not look for the experience. They're even willing to invest into their own academies to develop the skill. And it goes from the high level, let's call them knowledge workers, to, let's say, some more physical jobs. Just to give examples of what happens, call center agents. If you speak the language, that will qualify you immediately to get the job, whether it's in inbound calling, outbound, financial, customer care, whatever it is, because there is such a high demand. If you are a merchandiser, you have a B license for driving and you're willing to work on that, they'll skill you up, they'll teach you because there is a lack of that. So they are willing to hire inexperienced people in that domain. But if you're looking for something where there is more competition on the market, of course they'll ask for the experience. But one thing we noticed though is that kind of a self-motivation and kind of an entrepreneurial mindset in young generation and kind of this agility helps them in the process of building that kind of an acumen that could be interpreted as some sort of an experience. It is not, let's say, it's easier than ever to get yourself published, to get yourself noticed, to invest into yourself, and to sort of create your acumen of references in front of the new employer. I mean, today it's much easier than it had been yesterday. So it does favor those young generations, those young people who do have this self-motivation in themselves. But to be frank around this is employers, at the end of the day, they all look into their sort of ROIs, and of course, if there is no skill, they will hire anyone. But if they can choose, they will go for the experience.
Well, what you're saying is really complementary to what Diana elaborated. May I just ask a follow-up question? What is the number one thing people entering the workforce, young people I'm speaking in this sense, do not understand about the job market? What is the one thing they make as a mistake? And on the other hand, what do employers not understand about giving chances to maybe less experienced people entering the workforce?
I think one thing that employers nowadays, and maybe I'll take this discussion to sort of to a real bird's eye level, is that they don't really understand what are the young people for when they go for jobs. I think a lot of organizations are still in the mindset that these young people are there to sort out their existential needs. And, you know, existential needs are not anymore the topic for these young kids. And maybe that explains the high number of unemployed people, because they're not existentially endangered. And so it's not only salary for them. And you see a lot of work being written on whether it's a purpose, whether it's a higher sense of belonging, whatever it is. I think it is about the quality of how they live today that they're after. But I think that's one thing that employers don't understand, if I can generalize.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, at the core of the issues that both Diana and you discussed is the problem of brain drain, and we know it all too well. With us today is Professor Goldin, who has written extensively about migration, and he has challenged the idea that it weakens labor markets. In the region, we mostly talk about people leaving. What would it take for us to flip the script and make migration a solution instead of a crisis?
I think the arguments around brain drain are much misunderstood. We need to think about brain circulation. We need to think about what diasporas, that's what people outside our countries, can contribute. In many countries, they're the biggest investors. They also the biggest in terms of technology transfer back home. And many of them come back. I was part of the South African brain drain because I was a refugee, because I was involved in anti-apartheid. And then I went back to serve in the government of Nelson Mandela. But that happens in many places. People leave and then go back when they can. I do think there's a big issue about taxpayers paying for the education of people that then leave. For example, you spend a lot of money educating a doctor or another professional and then they leave. But I don't think that's addressed by saying you can't leave. I think we can have like 5 years or something that you work in the country. I also think that the countries you're going to need to pay back that human capital. So if you're going to the National Health Service of the UK and you trained in the Balkans, you should pay back for that training. But I don't think the answer is to stop people living. And in the end, of course, what people tend to do is go where they can get jobs that are well paid. And we see many people going, like now, there's a net migration back to Romania, there's a net migration back to Bulgaria, and there's a net migration back to Poland in very large numbers of people. So these things go through a cycle as well, according to the development of the country and the prospects elsewhere. And I think as the Balkans prosper and as Montenegro prospers, we'll see that as well. And people you thought of as a brain drain will become a brain asset.
Thank you so much. Now I'm posing the question to Jim. You advise governments around the world on linking economic growth with sustainability. What is one big risk governments do not understand when it comes to jobs and growth?
One big risk. There are many risks, and I'll try and bring them back to one big risk. I think there are quite a lot of risks around timing, because we talk a lot about sustainability as a challenge, but also sustainability is a great opportunity, creating new types of industries, new types of technologies, new job roles. We see the pathway to net zero, doing something similar, whether it's in transport or energy or building retrofit, all sorts of new jobs, new skills. Lots of work trying to forecast those numbers and forecast what the skills needs are, what the job roles are. And I think there's a challenge about the timing and demand and supply. When will these jobs actually start to come on stream? When do they become a critical mass, if you like? And then how does the supply side respond to that? And the supply side is, it's us individually and how we learn and train and prepare ourselves, as we've heard, but it's also about institutions, schools, further education colleges, universities, etc. And it's a real challenge to get those institutions to program themselves properly in response to forecasts which are still quite unpredictable. And a lot of this comes down to how those institutions are organised, how they're funded, which government department they respond to. So there's a lot of coordination issues. A challenge alongside that is the fact that in many European countries we have an ageing workforce, an ageing population, and possibly a shrinking workforce. One of the responses to that, of course, might be immigration, which comes with all sorts of other challenges. But there's also a challenge with kind of repurposing the older workforce. We focus a lot on young people and the needs of young people, and that's absolutely critical. But in large economies like the United Kingdom, for example, there aren't enough young people to do all of the new jobs. So we have to get the older workforce to transition. That's extremely difficult. Now, how many of us could take a year off to retrain when we've got bills to pay, mortgage to pay or whatever? It's extremely difficult to do that. And I think this is one of the big risks, that governments will kind of fail to be able to coordinate in a meaningful way across all of these kind of multiple challenges simultaneously.
And maybe I'll just go back to it. You actually worked across the world, so you have quite a good overview of what is happening out there. Do you see any valuable lessons for this particular region that we should take away from your work in terms of the job market? Especially now that we're talking about sustainability. There is a lot of discussion is, will this new wave bring job loss or job gain? And there is a bit of mismatch in discourse, so I'll go to you to that.
I think there's two lessons. One is a kind of an organizational lesson. I think if you look at Scandinavian countries, for example, you see the way the labor market is structured, there are regulations and legal structures that allow people to actually take time out of the labour force, quite often to look after children because they want to increase the size of the population. But there's quite kind of generous support to do that. But these are highly advanced, wealthy countries with very high tax rates, and that can't necessarily be replicated in other places. I think the other learning is something we've heard already from the other speakers about the ability to be fairly rounded as an individual. People who progress well in the labour market are not the most intelligent people, or sometimes they don't progress very well. It's people who are very rounded and they can adapt quickly and they can be resilient to change and resilient to shocks. And I think these are the kinds of skills that we need to kind of embed kind of in the population, but also in our institutions. And it's not just learning providers, it's also in the family setting as well. How we bring up the next generation to be more rounded and to be flexible and to be adaptable. Because the skill of being adaptable is extremely important because of all of the changes and the speed of change that we're seeing in society.
So you're hopeful for our region?
Oh,
Thank you.
yes.
Okay, I'll try not to butcher the words of the professor in the next part, and I'll read it really carefully. So sorry, I'm looking at the tablet. Technologies on their own, like a splitting of the atom or like a knife that can be used to cut food or to kill someone. These are dual weapons, and we need to make sure we use them for our own good and for the good of the humanity. So, biggest fear factor at this point in time can be the topic of AI. And I know you have written extensively about it, you have talked extensively about it. What is the biggest risk you see with the new way AI is being deployed today? And what is one thing that can now we do to make sure it serves people and not just profit or power? And if there's one human skill you believe AI will never replace, what is it?
I think, and just listening to the end of the previous panel as well on this, I think we underestimate the speed at which AI is developing and its implications for work, the future of work, and how unevenly distributed that is. And it depends critically on two things. One is whether you have a contracting or expanding workforce, in other words, demography. In countries that have rapidly contracting workforces, for example, China has 4 million less workers this year than last year. AI is wonderful. I just visited, I was in Beijing 10 days ago, I visited a factory, 96% automated. That's good if you've got a contracting workforce. That's why Japan was always at the forefront of technological change, because it was at the forefront of demographic change, of the contraction of fertility and decline of the workforce. That's why they invented automation. It's a completely different picture if you're in Africa and you have 25 million people coming onto the workforce every year. So what you think about AI depends on what you need in your society. The second big story is, of course, that AI will do anything that's repetitive and rules-based that doesn't require dexterity or empathy. Forget about call centers in the future. There will be no call centers in 10 years' time. So I would not encourage that as a growth opportunity. There will be no production lines, not even garment manufacturing by people. I've visited factories in Bangladesh where these suits are made by machines. So if Trump succeeds with tariffs to get factories back, they will not be employing people, they will be employing robots in the US and different places. As we get older and richer as societies, what we have increasingly is what economists call non-tradable jobs. So massages, elderly care, meals, hospitality, events like this. I don't believe that machines will be doing any of these jobs for the next 10, 20, or 30 years. We will not give our elderly parents or our small children to a machine. We will not want to go to a restaurant where the meal is made by a machine. We already can do that, but we don't want to go to it. We will not want a faster massage, and we will not want a faster hike in the mountains. These things will become more important and creative as we get into this society. The big question is, will there be enough jobs and how much will they be paid? And critically important, where are they? They are in the dynamic cities. They are not in the left behind places. And the politics of the future, which we're seeing today in the US, which we saw in AfD's vote in West and East Germany, AfD didn't get any votes in West Germany. Its votes were all in old East Germany. Trump's base is in the old places that were built by the Industrial Revolution. And in the north of England, we have support for Brexit, not in London. And so the question is, how do you get people from the old places to the new places? The big thing that AI will do is it'll make dynamic professional cities more dynamic, more productive, and it'll leave left behind places behind more quickly. Now, this is a very small region, and the challenge here is going to be how do you integrate, how do you spread the benefits, and how do you ensure that more of the jobs are what machines won't do. They won't do anything creative, and they won't do anything that we really like. So do more of what we like: hospitality, enjoyment, services, or what's good for old people, and you'll insulate yourself from machines. Plus, of course, the flexibility points. When students ask me, or their parents ask me, what should I study, which is a related question, should it be maths or music? The answer is it really doesn't matter. For the future. Machines will be very good at maths. They will not be very good at music and creativity. But the main thing is passion and curiosity, because that's what you're going to need, and the agility that others have talked about. But being curious and being passionate is the key to future success.
How lucky are your students? Really. No, I'm just at this point in time here in my next gen group, and I feel like we're in a lecture with you today. Thank you. So I sort of feel like I would love to bring the old panel back and we could debate them. Would we win? I don't know. So I'll go to Mr. Choban. In the media, AI is already writing headlines. They're already writing for full articles. So where do people still make differences? And maybe this touches upon not only about the job loss, but also misinformation.
Yeah, of course. So we are, as a publishing house, we are around the last 33 years. So we started in early 90s as a student newspaper. And then we needed just journalists and editors. What we realized in last 15, 20 years that young journalists that came from, for example, Faculty of Political Science, 90% of them, they are profiled to work in daily news media to deal with politics, and maybe only 5% of them can get job in this area because there is not enough this profile of media in Serbian market or wherever in the region. So that's why we started our own academy school for, because we have automotive magazines, teenage magazines, magazines for hair, cooking magazines, hobby magazines. And all those faculties, they don't produce that profile of young journalists. So we need to remodeling them, what they learn in their schools, to be fit for our job. In the meantime, of course, we started because of transition. Maybe our industry, media industry changed. It was the worst change, especially in 2007, 2008, when smartphones were introduced for the first time. So our industry was hit in 2 years, in 2008 and 2009, from one side from big economic crisis, global economic crisis, from other side from this huge shift of consumption from traditional models, print and TV, to online. And then we realized, okay, because Meta and Google, they took like 80% of online advertisements from all over the world. We have to introduce something for our locals. Then we start to do event business, like this conference, organizing more than 70 different events, conferences, and festivals. And we don't need anymore just journalists and editors and web and designers. We need event managers. We need people like you, people like people in staff of this conference. So then, after all these changes, and it was really year by year. It was on, especially if you combine all our local madness. Every year we are on the edge of the civil war or something like that. In last 5 months, we have huge demonstrations and riots on the streets of all major cities in Serbia. And since 1992, I mentioned it was 5 wars in the region. It was NATO bombing. It was 2 hyperinflation, assassination of prime minister in our country, world economic crisis, floods in 2014, Corona in 2020, war in Ukraine in 2022. So every year was something new. Then came what you asked, AI, and we realized, okay, it is maybe danger for some kind of jobs. For example, we don't need translators. Unfortunately, we don't need translators anymore in any of our magazines. It was maybe in whole group. We are present in all 6 former Yugoslavian countries with around 300 people. Maybe 15 people, they really lost their jobs. Some of them, we offered them to become like editors or journalists, but real translators, we don't need them anymore because all AI tools are much better and precise than this. And I really don't believe in AI journalism, like I don't believe in AI, because when you read some of statements of our politicians, it looks really, it was from GPT, especially EU politicians commenting what's happened in the region, so it's 100% GPT, nothing essential in this. So for me, I know it is probably the biggest and most advanced technology change, but for me it's just technology, and we need to use it, and we need to control it as a private person, or as a company, or as a society and state. Not allowed AI or people who controls those tools to control us. And this is how we try to model our business in the region. We are still we have still our print house, So circulations are, of course, decreasing year by year, but we're trying to move this, as I mentioned, not just in digital segment, also in this event segment, which I don't think changed 1% all digital, all event industries, conferences and festivals. So it is the same like 10 years ago. People want to come to listen presentation or to participate for music festival, to drink a beer, to smoke in Serbia and I don't know, Montenegro, cigars, which is not allowed in other countries. So this is the same. But in some areas, like I said, translators, around 10 people lost their jobs.
This is an excellent segue to make a small advertisement for You Don't Want to Miss the panel on Future of the Media happening Friday 9:30. You don't want to miss it. Maybe we'll twist this question and pose it to Eldar. What is the future of jobs in AI age?
You know, I'll give you an example. Our parent company, parent group of our business operates call centers, BPOs, and there's a big story around there. There is a bank quite known in the Nordics called Klarna Bank, and it's one of the first cases about call center jobs being replaced by AI. Basically, within a quarter, they had 1,000 people call center, and last year or a year and a half ago, they moved to 200 people. So they cut 800 people. So 800 people lost jobs, call center jobs. But when you dig behind the story, there were about 40 people who worked on implementing this new change and who are supervising the new change. So those 40 people who were on the technological side, who were dialogue editors, competence, or how do you call them, not accent, but sort of, I think the title was, I'm laughing now with these new titles, you know, I consider myself old school in terms of work, but they are like generation gap analysts, sort of how do you make this AI talk to all these people that you don't have humans anymore to detect whether it should be formal language, informal language, whatever. But what I'm trying to say, 800 people got jobs, low-paid jobs in call centers. 40 people who were good in the new stuff, they got jobs which were highly paid jobs. So, you know, this AI, just like any other industrial revolution, like new set of tools that comes in, you know, it was internet at the time, so the first programmers of HTTP protocols, the websites, they got great jobs, and after that, the app developers, iOS, Android developers. So in a way, this, for some segment, will be an opportunity. I'm afraid that segment is small, and as Professor said, you know, if you are in a position where your labor force is shrinking, that can be good news, because you can automatize a lot. But for the developing countries, for a lot of labor coming in, and for the young people coming into labor markets, they definitely have to take it into account. And, you know, what will be the future of it, I don't know. I cannot predict it, but I think these young people can shape it. Let them take part in it, let them find new ways to use those tools, because those tools, once introduced, they're never going to go back. So whatever that takes them.
This is a good segue to go back to Jim. Not only are you a friend of the summit, you're also a friend of the region, and you keep coming back. What is, in your opinion, one field or opportunities our governments across the region are not taking enough advantage of, what we have?
I think one of the big challenges, and Ian has alluded to this already, it's fundamentally around all of these changes that are happening, changes in AI, changes promoted by sustainability, net zero, new types of jobs, new technologies, new skills. A lot of benefit could accrue out of all of this. A lot of challenges and some negatives, but a lot of benefit. And I think the challenge is the distribution of that benefit. To whom does that benefit accrue? And I think when it comes to getting a job, a new job, the best way to get a job is to already have a job. That's the best way to get a job. If you're already active in the labor market, you're progressing, you'll get another job because it's clear that you can do a good job of work, we'll give you a job. If you're very distant from the labour market, if you're economically inactive, then it's extremely difficult to get one of these new types of jobs. And that comes back to this whole distribution of the benefit of all of these changes. And and it's not going to be equally distributed. Even in the best case scenario, it will not be equally distributed. And maybe that's not a good thing anyway. And a lot of the management and coordination of this, it comes down to institutions. And I think when I look at the region here, and this region is not alone in this, because of the history over the last few decades, we've got maybe institutions which are still quite new, quite young, still trying to find their way, still trying to build capacity, and trying to deal with all of these multiple layered challenges at the same time. And I think it's the capacity of the institutions which might be a challenge here. Now, you can flip that the other way, because of the history and the need to change and the need to adapt and the need for new institutions. Maybe there's an agility here. Relatively small countries, maybe things can be organized more effectively, more efficiently, with institutions that are new and young, and maybe can grab hold of these challenges in a way that maybe if you go to the UK and we go to Germany, we see old institutions and the civil service is very siloed, not very entrepreneurial, not very good at being agile and taking advantage of these types of things. So I think it's the kind of the institutional framework and the institutional capacity and coordination is important to try and navigate through not just the changes themselves, technology changes, but how the benefit of this is felt across all of the different communities. And I think it's something we should look at.
To see the change you're talking about, we need strong policies. And that is something Diana knows a lot about. What is the mismatch? Our policies in Serbia, our policies in region following the needs of young labor market, addressing the risks and opening new opportunities.
Yes, and also non-formal education, which is important in this context. I can say that the importance of these skills and non-formal educational programs is recognized in our strategic framework for youth. Actually, our strategic framework is aligned with European strategic framework. They share almost the same goals. And both strategy in Serbia, employment strategy, as well as the youth strategy, aim to increase job opportunities for young people, and in their action plans, which are updated every 2 years, different measures, programs are designed to first outreach them and then to engage them to gain some skills. But this will sound like I'm sending a message to my policymakers, but to ensure strategy's effectiveness, they have to recognize that employment of young people and their skills, it's a social issue. It's not a challenge of single ministry. Intercooperation between different ministries, we heard private sector, IT sector, educational sector, as well as scientific community is essential. In the last couple of years, I have seen increased cooperation between NGO sector, scientific community, and policymakers, but it is still not enough, I can say, because of data. We cannot analyze without data and reports, evaluation of the strategies. And in the end, I would like just to add that implementation, because of that, implementation of the strategy should be evidence-based and grounded in research results, because we need to ensure that skills young people gain align with the real needs of the job opportunities and future jobs.
Thank you. So my last question goes to Robert. I already said in my introduction, you've been in media so much, and the nature of your job is that you truly understand the people. There tends to be a description of the Western Balkans youth as rather lethargic. That's honestly. Yeah. But we have especially now seen with the protests in Serbia, but also in my home country, in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We've seen them now in North Macedonia, we have seen them in Albania, now we have seen them in Montenegro as well. We see that youth do want to participate, they do want to say, they do care about the country. What What is your perspective on this topic, on this perception? I believe it's false. What do you think?
Yeah, many people were quite shocked and surprised because of what happened in the last couple of months in Serbia. And as you mentioned, after Serbia in North Macedonia, a little bit less in Bosnia and Montenegro, because lethargic was the word for all those young people. And yesterday I watched on N1 television that it was a discussion in European Parliament about that and about riots in Turkey and everything. But it is something quite new, especially in Serbia, that you can see like hundreds of thousands young people on the street, walking, even cycling from Novi Sad, from Serbia to Strasbourg, to France, 1,500 kilometers. It's really something what was never happened before, not in 90s, not in after this. So, but we still don't know, and this is after my 33 years of experience in publishing. This is the first time I really don't know the answer what will happen in Serbia in this position, because government side, they don't want to allow not even 1%. We have situation, okay, in Montenegro and Bosnia, you have local municipalities with different parties controlled different cities or local municipalities. Same in Croatia, same in North Macedonia. In Serbia, it is only one part of city of Niš. A part of city of Niš is controlled by other party. All the rest, so 99.99% controlled by one party. It's not the case in Turkey. It's not the case in Hungary. So countries with similar kind of stabilocracy. So we don't know, and we still have this events everywhere, even in small cities. How this will affect our society? How this will affect future if they lose this war or whatever? Will they all be the biggest brain drain in history? Will they all leave the country? Said, okay, we give up. After this is like our 6th or 7th attempt in last 10 years, and nothing happens. So we will go in Strasbourg, but to stay in Strasbourg, not to cycle to Strasbourg. So really, it was never, to be honest with you, I faced everything why I mentioned wars and assassinations and different kind of local troubles and global troubles. But in case of Serbia, for us, I think this is the most uncertain moment in our history in for sure last 30, 40 years.
I know it's uncertain, but may I say I'm hopeful. As someone from Bosnia and Herzegovina, I'm hopeful. Mm-hmm. And it's an important moment in our history, I believe. So the clock before you, I know you're all glancing at it. It's lying. We have 10 minutes less than it says on the clock, which now leaves
So 5.
So 5 minutes. I would love for this not to be us discussing. It's a truly interesting topic. I want to open it up to you. Do we have questions from audience? Yes, Dityan? Can you hear Dityan all well? Thank you, Martina. I know everybody.
Thank you, Amina. Thank you for the overall discussion. It's very nice to listen to the discussion. I'm Dityan, coming from Kut, Kosovo, an NGO working with youngsters and pre-university education. One of our program is the employment of youngsters and career orientation. And our services are involving, in a country level, working with the youth guarantee policies. So for me, there were two very important things that were discussed in this area. So firstly, we were talking about the Adria region, and I think that it's a common shared resource that we have a lot of youngsters in the region. And I think that there is a problem that should be discussed specifically. What are we doing with those youngsters and how we are involving them in the labor market? But secondly, we're talking mainly about the Gen Z, right? I mean, youngsters, not only the Gen Z, but Gen Z is quite a high-level number of these. Through some statistics that I surfed the internet, it says that almost 2 billion youngsters are part of the Gen Z all over the world, which means 27% of the overall work employment in world level. So, another one says that youngsters, specifically Gen Z, will go not only with one profession during their life. They will have 3 up to 7 different professions through their professional career. So, firstly, are we doing enough into creating either the policies, either the research, or the tracking system in between the educational system and the labor market for the youngsters in the region? And secondly, are the businesses prepared for youngsters to have them as colleagues for 5 years, but not have them anymore after 5 years and rechange the whole stuff? Because this is what the statistics are saying regarding the Gen Z now. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions or interventions? Yes? Oh, see, who said?
Peers.
Ilir Kishmari speaking from Kosovo. I would like to ask the panelists, do you have robots in your entities that you work? If yes, great. If not, why are you not integrating? Do you hear me?
Can you repeat what?
Robot. Not
So
Robert,
you have
Robert.
robots.
I am asking if you have robots in your entities that you work. If you don't have, are you thinking of involving robots in your company? And based on your experience with personal computers, would you think that they would be better than your colleagues?
Do you have robots?
No, we don't have.
Yeah.
No robots.
No.
We have robots.
I have in
We
my
have
family.
robots, and we're going to have more robots. Are they better? It depends. There are parts of the work where they are better. When you need to manipulate data, copy it from one system to the other, when you need to share data, accumulate, do statistical cubes, etc., they are much more accurate. They're much faster, and they are better. Are they better in interviewing processes and stuff like? Because we are a recruitment agency. They are not better. So we are gauging the use where we're going to use them. But for automatic replies, for screening, for profiling, our experience is maybe we had wrong people, but in many of those things, they are already better. So we are using them, and we will be using more of them.
Professor?
Yeah, just briefly on both questions. Obviously at Oxford University we have lots of robots. We're making the robots, we're inventing the robots. But we also, if by robots you also mean powerful computing capacity, sure. It's all my team, and I have 27 docs and postdocs, all of them are mining using very advanced computing all the time, every day. So there's no question that, it's integrated into the work in a seamless way. And I would not recruit anyone for a doctorate or postdoc that wasn't able to program and integrate with them. So it's absolutely key. On this question of careers, I thought 5 to 7 career changes it sounds very low to me. I think that there will be constant evolution of careers. The whole idea of a career, I think, will become redundant. Firstly, because people will be much more self-employed and generating things themselves. So if self-employment's a career, okay. But it raises massive questions. It raises questions about tax, it raises questions about pensions and accumulation of savings. Of course, it raises questions about location, because the jobs will not be in the same place. And so people have to be able to move much more flexibly. And it's one of the reasons we're seeing a rapid decline in fertility, in birth rates, is because people can't anchor in a place they can't afford to with children. So that seems to hold people back from mobility. So yes, I think there will be a fundamental shift in the way we think about employment in the future. I also think that there will be a fundamental shift for people my age. You know, the whole idea of retirement at 65 or 70 is a 1970s idea, when average life expectancy was 7 years and average real risk-adjusted returns were 4%. Now, average life expectancy at age 60 is 25 years, and real risk-adjusted returns are 1%, if you're lucky. So you're going to have people are going to work into their 70s and 80s, and by the time you get there, into your hundreds. That's a whole different way of thinking about a career as well.
So can I respond very quickly to both points? So on the robots, I don't use robots. I wish a robot would replace my job. It would make my life a lot easier. I might not have any money, but it'd be an easier life. I mean, the extent to which technology is adopted across the economy is very different in different industries and different sectors. And some sectors will adopt it very quickly because they're production-based and they're already technologically advanced. Some sectors, and some sectors which are expanding quite rapidly, will not adopt this technology because they're about social care or social work or dealing with psychological problems, which are becoming increasingly prevalent, particularly amongst young people, for example. And I think we shouldn't assume that all businesses suddenly adopt technologies very efficiently. Many businesses are not well run, they're not well managed, they're not optimizing anything, and they'll struggle on with old technologies, and they might get left behind and they might disappear. But there are lots of inefficiencies in the economy, and sometimes the technology is not obvious to all parts of the economy how to use it. On the Gen Z and careers question, not all young people are the same. Some young people have grown up in households where both parents went to university. They are mentored from the day they are born, and they will have a pathway. Some kids are born and raised in care homes, or in extreme poverty. They do not see a pathway ahead of them. So when we talk about young people, we're talking about a huge diverse group for whom one policy solution will not fit all young people. I think the point about different careers through a person's life, absolutely. I think I agree entirely with Ian. We will all live longer. We will all have smaller pensions than our parents' generation. We will have to work for longer. We will have to keep adapting. One of the challenges for young people, a young person will go to the careers advisor in the school or the college for advice. Unfortunately, the only job that careers advisor has ever had is careers advisor. So they're very ill-equipped to give any advice about what to do in the future. I mean, I think it goes back to the point that the best skill you can develop, and I think, Ian, did you say it doesn't matter what degree you do? I think that's absolutely right. It doesn't matter what degree you do or what university. A degree in maths from Cambridge or Oxford is fine to get your first job, but that's not going to set you on a pathway. The pathway that you develop for yourself is about how rounded you are as a personality, how you can adapt, how resilient you are, how agile you are, how you communicate. Artificial intelligence at the moment, when we think of artificial intelligence, we think of ChatGPT is the first thing we think about. What's ChatGPT doing? It's producing lots of text, lots and lots of text. Who's reading all this text? I'm not reading it because I don't have time to read all of this text. So artificial intelligence is very good at text, generally lots and lots of text. What's going to be really important is oral communication. Can you communicate with an audience, and can you persuade that audience to do the things that you think they need to do? It's going to be hugely important in politics, and politics is increasingly fractured, and it's also going to be very important kind of societally to be able to communicate and persuade. At the moment, ChatGPT doesn't do that because no one's going to read all that stuff. So nobody's doing anything. But if you can communicate and you can persuade, and you can make a case for change in a balanced, articulate, persuasive way, that's how you will go ahead in life. And that's the key skill you need to learn, I think.
Perfect. Thank you. Give it up to my panelists.